The FNL Network Talk Show.
Welcome to the FNL Network Talk Show. I am Marianne Estridge, your host today, and we have Jeff, James, and Odair as our co-host. How is everybody doing?
Doing well.
Doing very well.
Good.
We have one bigger topic today. And as a lot of people probably know, there has been quite a bit of devastation in the Ukraine as Russia has invaded. So it has been all over the news. It has been the headlines everywhere that I look. And it is absolutely devastating and quite scary. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So I noticed that Biden is concerned with protecting NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But I did hear him say that he was not sending troops directly to Ukraine. Has anyone else heard that same thing?
I've heard a lot of things from Biden.
Yeah.
First of all, they're not.
Yes.
Ukraine is not part of NATO, so we should not be defending the rights and sovereignty of Ukraine. That should be up to them and their Eastern European alliances, whomever they may be. I don't think I do. I mean, Russia has been a long villain or has been scapegoated for decades by the New World Organization cabal, because they've always pointed to Russia as the boogeyman or the big enemy. And in my view, this is something that has been planned for a long time, what's taking place now. I don't know if anybody ever follows Alex Jones, but Alex Jones said in October, there will be a war breaking out in the Ukraine, or it will start in Eastern Europe in February of next year. He said this in October of last year. So how did he have that information? People plan these things way in advance. It just doesn't happen. And for Biden to be placing these so-called sanctions on banking or other companies that have already had sanctions in place on is no big deal. It's all window dressing. It's how it looks from the street or from your living room as you watch TV. I mean, this war in the Ukraine was instigated by the West, in my opinion, and much has been permeated in order for Russia to be the universal bad guy. This is a way for all future catastrophes or crises can be laid at the feet of the Kremlin. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination that Putin is a good guy. He's not a good guy, but he's the fall guy.
Wow. That is so interesting the way that you worded that, because I haven't thought about it from that angle, James. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Jeff, what is your opinion?
Okay, so we had people over there, right, in Ukraine, and we put them out. So we have connection to them. So I feel like he's just protecting our connection being over there. I feel, in my opinion, I feel like Putin is just being wicked. It is what it is. You said you don't want to pinpoint him, but he's the ones that's allowing that war to go forth. So right now, he is the lead man, and it's innocent people that are actually getting killed behind this, and innocent people that are running to the borders of Poland, and it's just unfair. And it's all about greed, and it's all about taking territory. And that's my opinion on that. I don't like what I'm seeing, and I feel like it's going to be a domino effect. It may be going on over there in Russia and Ukraine. I feel like it's going to be more wars that's going to manifest behind this. We're just seeing outer surface of what's going on, because we've been 2 years in a pandemic. It's just a lot going on. So we have to look at the big picture.
Well, what the big picture is the alliance between China and Russia. That's the big picture. That's where I'm fearful. I mean, look at the economy of Russia is very, very, very weak. They have very little money, and they can't independently take this war and continue it for a long time. It's something they have to go in there, hit hard, and hope they're effective. Otherwise, if they get funding secretly through China, this is World War III.
Yeah.
And all the money that Putin is getting is coming from our buying their oil, or Europe and Germany buying their oil. Why is that? Why are we allowing Putin to produce so much oil and sell it to the world market? We should put sanctions on that. We should open up our pipelines here, our XL Nord Stream, our pipeline in the Dakotas, and start bringing our own, becoming energy independent again, like we were under Trump. It's a huge national security risk for us to have to be dependent on somebody else for fuels and get us onto electric vehicles, which are, fueled by gas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would be great to open up our pipeline. I'm with you there, James. I am. Dear, what is your opinion?
My opinion about this is that we are just like Geoffrey just said, we are just in a pandemic for over 2 years. The world has been through so much emotionally and all those things. And now there's going to be a possibility for a war to start again. Haven't we learned anything about the past and translated that into the future? And what James also said about it being planned, I so do believe that that's true too. And for them, it's easy to make that because they can sit on their glass throne.
It's Putin's authoritarian. I mean, he was part of the KGB and he wants to reunite the former USSR. And how's he doing that? He wants to do that as one breakaway republic after another. I mean, after Ukraine, what's next? They say he's trying to go get Poland. If he tries to go after Poland, which was one of the NATO alliances, and that's where nuclear war will break out. And other people say, well, you know what? That's what they want. They couldn't kill us via the injections, so they're going to kill us with a nuclear war by taking masses of people out. It's just to me, I mean, I don't know what to believe sometimes, but I entertain and I read and I think of everything from different perspectives. And from that perspective, it's very viable. I mean, why else would anybody flirt with nuclear catastrophe? Nothing good comes out of war. And people always say, oh, you're such a Trump supporter. How many wars did Trump start or was he a part of during his 4 years? 0. The only president in our time who's not engaged in a war. So
he started other wars. He didn't start major wars, but he started wars amongst people, which was the worst. It was the severing and dividing amongst people. And people became war with each
I hear what
other.
you're saying, but I see more division amongst Biden and Harris than ever. They're the most divisive duo who are in an illegal position in a fraud attempt to overtake the presidency, which they did. And that's just my opinion for what it's worth. But there's substantial evidence to prove that. It's just unfortunate that we're having to suffer the ramifications of what they've done.
Yeah, I totally agree. My thing is that leadership is supposed to think about the people. It's not about you being empowered, how you can control the people. It's about you being in a position to hear the voice of the people to make a difference. And I feel like the people don't count. Every time there's someone in leadership, they never count. They go forth and they tell them all these things that they're going to do and they're going to honor. And they never follow through. That's not leadership.
They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
Yeah, you want to respect you, but we can't respect you when you don't do what you're going to say. So now I feel like what's going on, the people are fighting back. The people say, okay, I have to fight for my own rights. So that's what I feel like they're doing over there. They're actually fighting for their own rights. So they're not pushed in the corner and being fearful. They're not waiting for the government. They're standing forth and say, we're going forth. And I feel like that's where it's going to go. James and all of us talked about this a couple of weeks ago, people standing up and fighting. And we as people, I think we just going to have to start standing up. It's like, okay, we don't trust anybody. We have to fight for our rights. We have to fight for our survival. And I think that's what's going on. Everybody's just fighting for their survival.
You're preaching today, brother.
Yes, yes, you are. Go, Jeff.
It was in my heart, y'all.
But the thing is, and I totally agree with everything you said. The thing is this, as you notice that the government of Ukraine has been passing out weaponry to their citizens, so their citizens can help defend the nation. I think that's brilliant. The reason why we have not been more I guess you could say, a totalitarian takeover of the United States or the Marxist takeover is because we have the Second Amendment. We have arms, we have weapons, and they know that that's the reason why the Second Amendment was written in the first place, to protect the citizens from a tyrannical government. And look what happened with the trucker strike in Canada. What did they do? They didn't listen to them. He didn't address them. He didn't validate their concerns or their fears. What did he do? He squashed them. And they say that he was advised to do that by the Biden administration. Said, if you don't do it now, it's going to come to the United States. Well, it's coming now. I don't know how large it's going to be, but I totally 100% support and endorse their right to express their views and concerns against their government, our government.
And I agree, James, the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, I fully support it. And a lot of people, they'll say things like, well, criminals can get their hands on the wrong guns. Criminals are going to get their hands on the wrong weapons regardless.
Anyway.
They are going to, that's what they do.
Yeah.
But I agree, everybody should be allowed to protect themselves. Everybody.
Amen.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that the Ukraine, that they're handing out weapons so that they can protect themselves, because it's scary. I mean, I've been trying to follow it pretty closely, and I've watched the explosion. I've seen people's with their faces bloody, and apartment complexes and homes destroyed, families separated. It's devastating and it's terrifying. And I can't imagine how I would feel if this happened in the US, if I was in their shoes. I just can't imagine.
Well, listen, I can imagine. And I'm not going to say that the West or the United States is so pure that it couldn't happen. It could happen here.
Yes. That's
have you seen the video where the Russian tank is going down the highway, running over Ukrainian cars and killing the drivers?
No.
Oh my gosh, I have not seen that. That's horrible.
I'll send it to you after. I saw one most recently. The guy, he was zigzagging. The tank was zigzagging down the highway, and a car comes, crunches right on top of it. Fortunately, it's been reported as he saw and squatted down. I would think he would be decapitated. But war is, they say war is hell, and it is. And all for generating land mass. There's a lot of valuable resources in the ground in Ukraine that they want. So I don't know. I believe all this stuff it stems from the banking cartels. It does. I mean, Biden and Harris, they're just puppets. There are people who are so much more powerful than they are, who are pulling the strings of everything. And we are living under the illusion that we have the right to vote for our leaders. Do we really, or is it all predetermined? If Trump hadn't got such an overwhelming support in 2016, they would have robbed him of it, but they didn't. They knew it was just no way they could have. So they planned themselves really, really well for the 2020 election, and they made sure that they were able to pull it off. So anyway, Odair, you're just sitting there looking so handsome. Now
I'm actually very thinking about what everyone is saying, and you know how I am. I like solutions, but in this particular, to come up with something positive, a light creates hope, and for me that's something very concerning, and gets me angry as well. Disappointed, like I said before, but angry as well, because why is war the only solution? For example, giving the citizens weapons to defend themselves, I understand, but it's violence against violence, and people are going to die both ways. So for me, that's why I'm quiet and thinking like, what can there be done? What can there be done? When is enough enough? And for me personally, I'm tired of this negativity coming over and over and over again. So that's for me something. That's why I'm sitting here quiet and thinking like, okay.
Well, I do believe that have taken over the world, and they're really trying to bring the Western world in particular down so they can do the Great Reset. But I don't think they're going to be successful. I think that there's too many people who have woken up to their game and they're fighting back against it. But there is going to be civil unrest, I think, for the next couple, 3 years. I mean, big time. And they're going to do everything in their power to get people against one another and have us fighting one another. So I think that if someone was to come to your home, Odair, and they had a gun and they were trying to harm you or those inside your home that you loved, would you not do everything in your power to defend them?
Yes, I would.
You would. And I'm sure you would too, Jeff, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Marianne, I know you would.
Absolutely.
I would. I mean, we as human beings our core DNA is about survival. And
Yes.
it is protection. And we are to protect those innately. If you love someone, you're going to protect them like your mother bear is going to protect her cubs. I know my mother would fight to the finish for me, as I would for those I love. But from this point forward, I think every energy crisis, every armed conflict, financial breakdown, economic collapse, global pandemic, climate catastrophes, everything is going to be pinned on Russia. Because, I mean, I remember as a child, people used to always make fun of Russian women and say, oh, they have hairy armpits, or they look like men, or they would see a real masculine looking woman and they'd say, oh, she must be Russian. And I kept thinking as I became older and more mature and became friends with Russians, thought, because there's a huge Russian community in South Florida. And I thought, why have we been programmed to sort of resent or not like Russians? That they were the boogeyman. And my so-called boyfriend or whatever, Dmitry, is from Russia. He's from, the Outer Banks. He's from Siberia. So anyway, it's just there's been a big, huge PR campaign for years and years and years that Russia was bad. And I'm not saying that Putin's not bad. What he's doing is horrible. But I think that he was provoked. I think that the U.S., I think Biden, when he called Zelensky in Ukraine and said, this is weeks ago, how he was and Zelensky's like, man, hey, you need to calm down. He was trying to say, they're going to get you. But we shall see. I just think that I'm very proud of Zelensky standing his ground and not hopping on a helicopter and getting out of the country and going somewhere else to seek refuge or try to live in exile. I am hopeful that he will survive, and hopefully the people will be able to defend themselves from their aggression, which is Russia.
Yes.
I think that was I think that was good what you said, especially when you kind of brought it home and you said James, when you were saying that if someone came in your house and they were trying to I kind of got emotional. I felt it, that you would protect your family because you don't want nothing to happen. That's what everybody's doing. They're going into protection mode. But something else that you said that really touched me was we shouldn't just point the finger at Russia, because it's a leadership, it's a person, it's not the people as a whole. And I think that's where we really mess up. We started just pinpointing to one group of people when it's one person that's just doing things that are wicked. And I think it's just unfair. We can bring it in today's time where people see a particular person and they want to pinpoint and they want to call them out on the issue, like you said about, they were talking about the Russian women. It's backing someone in a corner and you're actually, what is it called? What is the word? You're bullying them. And to me, that's what he's doing. And, before I got up here, his daughter told him he don't do the war. Putin's daughter was on her Facebook page, and she was telling them not to do it. Stop it. Don't. So everybody's not in agreement with what he's doing. It's just that one person is just being greed. Is greed. He's just trying to take territory, and he's using his force of power with what he have to back people in the corner, and that never works. Pushing people in the corner by force, it never works. It's all in you showing love and showing compassion and understanding about another person. And that's that's the thing I feel on that. It's one person. He's the head, And, it trickles down from the head. I just go biblical. It always starts from the head, starts from the leader, and whatever the leader's doing, it just trickles down to the people that are underneath them. They're just going off of what one person is saying. So, my thing is, I'm just praying. Honestly, I'm praying, especially for Ukraine and all that they're going through, because no one should be going through what they're going through in such a time as this, when it's so much going on in the earth. And they're running for their lives, not knowing if they're going to wake up tomorrow and still be alive. And they're worried about their little kids, and they're crying, and their kids are saying, mommy or daddy, why are you crying? They don't want to tell them they're crying because they're fearful. And that's horrifying, that people on TV are saying that they're fearful. They don't know what's going to happen, and they're just trying to stay in position and be strong for their families. And inside, they're dying inside. So that's what I see, and it just really hurts me. It hurts my heart. I just start praying, because nobody wants to experience that. It's just unfortunate.
It is the inhumanity of war. We have to understand, as spiritual and as righteous and as good and loving as we may be, and we also have this side can be just as evil. The human capacity to be evil. I mean, people have the capacity to be as mean as they are sweet.
Yeah.
And put in a situation, I could be as nasty as I need to be to protect myself. But why would never want to intentionally go out and harm someone unless they were trying to harm me?
Right.
But that's me.
That's right.
But that's just
No,
me.
I completely agree with you, James. I mean, I can't understand how someone, I mean, he doesn't know the person in the car. He's just trying to run over them.
He
I
didn't know
mean,
it
who
could be
does that?
family in
It's
the car.
senseless.
Yeah.
It's senseless and it's cruel. And I think, unfortunately, there are people in this world that do not have a conscience.
Yeah.
And I could not live with myself if I ran someone over. Even, if it was an accident, I couldn't live with myself. But to do it intentionally,
Yeah.
what's going through his mind?
But see, that's just one of hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
They're a whole nation. They're programmed to, and if they don't go out and do as they're told to do, they're going to be the ones who's going to suffer the consequences. So it's just like there are people who are agent provocateurs who nudge or try to incentivize people to do things to benefit organizations or governments or whatever. Because I think big corporations are very evil too. Not necessarily per se, but what their goals are. And they sort of have this kill or be killed mentality where they want to take total control of things. Like China is horrible, but are the Chinese people horrible? No. I know plenty of Chinese people who I adore, but their government is a tyrannical government. It's a communist government who is an authoritative leader who tries to dominate and control. Same way with Putin. But the thing is that, under Trump again, he befriended these despots. He defended these leaders. He had Xi Jinping come to Mar-a-Lago and have a little summit. And he tried to, the old saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Trump was trying to do. And when Biden got into office, he said, I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to talk to them. And there's no good comes out of alienating those who are trying to do harm. You try to bring them in closer and try to, if you can't win the respect, but try to let them know that these are the ramifications if you do decide to do something like take over the China Sea or take over Ukraine. But Biden refused to even talk to them. And so the end result is he'll take their money, but he won't talk to them. That's Biden. So it's there's no leadership.
Yeah. And looking the other way, it never works. I think it just complicates things further, which we can see has happened. And you talked about China, James. I've read in certain places that China is blaming the United States for this, which
Sure.
They're blaming the United States for Russia attacking Ukraine.
Yeah, well, they're blaming the West more.
Mm-hmm.
listen, we are not without our faults in this country. And
Right.
we have got a lot of evil people who have been put into positions of power in this country. And their alliances and their best wishes is not for the United States. And so it's sad, but it's just a state of where we are right now. And I think most people just want to go about their daily lives, go to work, get their check, feed their family, do the best they can, maybe take a vacation if they can. And they really don't concern themselves with what's going on in the power structure of government. But now they are. Now they're waking up and they're going and they're taking back their school boards saying, don't you talk to my children this way? Don't you teach that to my child? How dare you? And they're getting pushbacks from the saying, you don't have the right to tell us how to teach your child. Well, yeah, I do. That's my child. And this is a public school where I pay taxes for this child to attend. And you will teach this child things that I find beneficial or not. If you don't, we'll pull them out. But the school board, of course, is the largest contributor to the Democratic Party, and they have huge, huge power. But that's just one example. I mean, it's just look at the union who backed Biden with the XL pipeline, and then as soon as Biden got into office, what did he do? He put them all out of business. They're all home, work, jobless. They're all fired and on the streets getting unemployment. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful who you align yourself with, because talk is so easy to do. You can read from a teleprompter what someone puts in that teleprompter and speak with floral words and prettiness and speak real soft or with charisma. And at the end of the day, as soon as they grab that power, bam, all bets are off, honey. And you're going, but I supported you. It's just like those people in Black Lives Matter who were saying, they were chanting, yeah, go. Well, Black Lives Matter threw a big brick through the window. And the guy's like, but I'm supporting you. You have to be careful who you try to support, because they'll come back and bam. And now all these people are pulling out their support for the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States, because they see that $60 million has gone astray. But back to Ukraine. Sorry, I diverted.
It's okay. These tangents are very interesting. They are.
Yeah, but it's probably a part of my ADD. But
Buddy.
I actually, by hearing what you guys are telling about this subject, I was wondering, because Biden didn't want to talk, right? He didn't want to sit with his enemy, to put it like that, and talk about it. If you guys had a chance to sit with Putin, what would you say? And talking for the people, you would sit there and talk for the people and try to not have a war. What would you guys say to such a person?
If I was sitting there with Putin, I would say, hello, nice to see you, sir. May I taste some of your Russian vodka? And then
I know why you're saying that. You have to slide in. You have to slide in.
Yeah, and maybe some caviar. And then I would say to him, I'd say, why not choose peace? Why not choose nationalism and protect your people, and try, instead of trying to take other people's nations and bring them into the fold? He's saying that they were excised from the USSR, Ukraine, and the bulk of the Ukrainian population wants to be part of Russia again. Well, if that's the case, why do you need to go in there with force? Why not just let them vote and reconcile and reunite? They don't want that. So, but first of all, Jeff, I didn't even know that he had a daughter.
Yeah,
I didn't either.
They were talking about it before y'all came up here, that on the CNN, that they were saying that she was telling him not to do it.
That's why I didn't know, because I don't watch that.
I can't with
you. Listen, I used to love CNN International when I told you this. But
it's like, stop it. But I said CNN. Oh, no. Let's not go there.
Fake news. I've gone on that show several times on CNN and given my opinion about stuff. Anyway, so I would probably just tell him, I'd say, you have a daughter, you have a family, you have people you love. You don't want harm to come to them. They don't want harm to come to their families. It probably wouldn't be fruitful, it wouldn't be beneficial, but I just try to be a human to human and say, let's rethink this. It's not necessary. That's one thing that I admired about Trump. Trump came in as an anti-war president, and so, or as a candidate, and then became president. And that's one of the main reasons why I supported him. I don't think anything ever good comes out of war, and it's never for the people. It's always for the people who have bigger interests, like banks, corporations, cabals, people who have got vested interest in Raytheon or other things. They want war because war is profitable. They know they're never going to be personally harmed from sending someone else's child to go and defend a cause. But I think it's the last resort. And what Putin's doing is just for land grab.
And do you guys believe that it comes of lack of communication?
No,
No.
I think it's just authority. He just,
I mean, there's a video when someone says President Biden suggests this to you, and Putin throws his head back and laughs so hard, like that man's going to advise me.
Wow.
I mean, that is a slap in the United States face. It has nothing to do with Biden. So, he's a laughing stock, and it. If you're honest with yourself, you'll say he's an embarrassment as a representative of the United States, not because he's a Democrat, but because he is incompetent. You've seen, if you'll turn off CNN and go to other resources, Jeff, you will see how there are montages of him just zoning out in space. He doesn't know where he is sometimes.
I've seen it.
I think he got Alzheimer's.
I don't know what he has. They say he has early stages of Parkinson's. They say he has.
Yeah, it's something going on with him.
They shoot him up with Adderall.
What?
Before, yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, before he has these big things where he has to go, because Adderall is like legal cocaine, and he's like,
that is not right. He is too old to be getting shoot up like that. That is going to overtake his body.
Don't shoot the messenger, honey.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I did not know that.
I'm just laying out facts.
Wow.
Oh
Adderall.
So it's a whole big old mess. But where do I think that this is all going to go? I have no idea. Do you guys think this is going to be a long war? Or
yeah,
you do?
I feel like it's going to be more wars. I feel like it's just the beginning, and it's just unfortunate because there's so much going on in the world, and I just feel like it's just the beginning. Everything that has happened in the last 2 to 3 years has been a domino effect. It's just unfortunate, and that's one of the things that I wanted to say when y'all were talking is, do you think that what's going on over there, that we need to prepare our mind for something? It may not be on that level, but really get our mind and get ourselves situated for what may be coming forth ahead. That's what I thought about. I was like, gosh, you really, really need to get our mind.
I told you last week, stock up on essential supplies and medications.
Yes.
Now I'm telling you, go to the bank and get cash. Get 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, and get as many as you can afford to pull out.
Yeah. I do think we need to be prepared because there's no way to know exactly when it's going to happen, but it's better to be prepared now than to wish you would be later.
Yeah.
And
you pray for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
There's always a worst before the good comes. It's like a storm before the good.
These evil people who are pulling the strings, they don't want to give up their power. They do not want to give it up. And it's going to be a fight. In fact, it's going to be a war, and it's going to be on a big scale. And that's why it's going to be so important for people like us to defend our home, our castle, or our families. And when people come who are in a position of authority and try to break the law against a citizen, it's up to that citizen to defend themselves. So we're going to see that. It's going to be a sad but a necessary situation.
Movement.
Yeah. And I will say, right, wrong, or indifferent, when it comes to the Second Amendment, I'm prepared.
Yeah.
I am prepared.
Yeah.
Good.
So
As you should be,
Um,
as I am.
w- my husband and I have been prepared. So, I mean, you it's hard because you can't see what's going on behind the scenes. But I do think, James, like you said, we've got to prepare for that worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Because if we're not prepared and it does happen, then what?
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like Dr. Jonathan Peters says, a man should be an animal on the inside. He should be so raw and vicious on the inside. The beauty of it is where you learn how to tame it and control it. But you should be so prepared to defend yourself if need be. And nowadays in society, everyone's trying to feminize, and I make a living doing drag, but everybody's trying to feminize men, and by saying, oh, no, don't be so aggressive, that's toxic male. No, be a man and protect those you in a situation if you have to. If someone comes through your door, they're not there to sell you Tupperware. They're there to cause you harm, either to rape, rob, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to make sure no questions asked. Bam.
Yeah.
And I live in the former hood where there's lots of drug dealing and lots of thuggery going on. Right across the street from me was the biggest crack house in our area for 2 years. Every time they would put a new street light in, they would shoot it out. They all sat out there on the corner. There was a vacant lot, and they would deal drugs in front of the vacant lot. If cops came, you'd hear them whistle, and they'd run through the vacant lot and go to the other side. It took 2 or 3 years to get it all cleaned up. So I had to learn how to navigate between unsavory types of people.
Yeah, and you're in Florida, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I remember going to Florida years ago, and I stopped at a gas station and I needed to use the bathroom. And the gas station attendant said, do not use the outside bathroom. You can use my personal one. It's not safe out there. He told me that. And for me, being in North Carolina, I didn't expect that. I didn't think it was dangerous just to use the bathroom there.
Well, maybe there are people who hang out around there who will go and force themselves into the bathroom with a woman in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Listen, it's always a good thing to err on the side of caution. When I have my mother and I take her places. I'm like the other night, this has nothing to do, but I'm always so aware, knock on wood. But we had an event in Miami on Wednesday night, and I'm driving back up to my mother's place in Delray Beach on I-95. Well, of course, I'm watching all the traffic and stuff, and there's not a lot of traffic. There's probably but where I'm in a little group cluster of cars. And so I'm in the middle left lane. There are 4 lanes. There's a far right lane, and then the express lane on the left. And so I need to get into the express lane, which feeds into the turnpike in about a mile. So I'm looking my rearview mirror, and I see this bright light. A car is jetting towards me at 100 miles an hour. And I pull over into the left lane because I couldn't get into the right lane. He barrels into the car that was in front of me.
Ooh.
And that car hit several cars, and it was a huge, huge thing. People died. And I said, dear Lord, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
That if I had not been aware and looking what was going on and saw those lights coming at me at such force, bam, that would have been my car.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it was just like out of nowhere like that.
And you had to make a quick decision there.
Yeah.
It was subconscious, but
Yeah.
I was shaking like this after the fact.
Oh, I bet so.
I wanted to pull over. I was taking my landscape guy back to his house in Hollywood, Florida, and I had my cat in the car, and I thought I need to pull over and help. And he goes, "Don't, no, keep going, no, because it was still cars were still wrecking. Right? I mean, I saw them in the rearview mirror coming. I mean, there must have been 10 or 12 cars.
Ooh.
And I called 911 immediately, and I said there's been a huge major accident. And when we got to Hollywood, Florida, there were 4 fire trucks coming, ambulances, police cars. Everybody was rushing to the scene.
Wow.
So, you never ever know. Life is so. I told my mother earlier, how my sister has a friend who, out of nowhere, found out that she has cancer all over her body from something that she had previously years ago. And so I said, Mother, just another example of how fleeting life is.
Mhm.
One day you're fine, everything's beautiful, the sun is shining, and then turn a corner and bam, you just never ever know. And that's the
Yeah.
same thing with these people in the Ukraine and in Russia. Their lives were probably okay. They were,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
families, and then all of a sudden, missiles and tanks are coming through their house.
Yeah.
So give thanks, and people say it's such an overused phrase as thoughts and prayers for Ukraine or thoughts and prayers for, but really you have to send positive energy to these people because
Yes.
it could be us.
Absolutely. It could be. And that's something we should always keep in our minds, is that we could be next, or we could be, it could happen. It
Yeah.
absolutely could. And just to be grateful for our country and what we have. And I think a good president, more so than being warm and fuzzy, is
Sure.
a good leader. I think leadership is more important than being warm and fuzzy. As much as being warm and fuzzy makes people happy and feel good inside, sometimes you just have to be blunt.
It's not about feelings,
Right.
you know, like people say, F your feelings.
Yeah.
Give me good policies, give me good foreign policy. And this is a failure of Joe Biden's foreign policy failure. If he was a firm, dynamic leader who was sort of respected and possibly even feared, this would not be happening. Because we are the world power. We have the largest military, and I think who else is a nuclear equivalent would be probably Russia and China.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it comes down to. What state are they going to put a nuclear bomb off in? And would it be one of those two that did it, or could it be somebody else, an internal adversary who wanted to create a false flag? I don't know.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of false flags in history, with the Gulf of Tonkin, with the Reichstag fire, how Hitler rose to power. We've seen a lot of false flags to push forward an agenda or a narrative that countries or leaders want to push forward. Their expression that the Democrats use: "Don't let any crisis go to waste." That's what they did with the pandemic. They tried to push forward this new agenda. Same way with John Kerry. He was sitting in an interview the other day, and they asked him about the war, and what was his response? It was about global warming. It was about the atmosphere and the environment. That's not what they asked them. They asked him about the war. He wanted to talk about his agenda. People are just whatever. Odair, talk to us.
Yes, what I'm actually thinking about is it also being so unfair, because in 2014, actually, the Russian tried to attack Ukraine as well, and Ukraine had a much smaller army. Since then, they have grown their army bigger, but still not big enough to fight back to the Russians. So it's in multiple ways, it's so unfair. And like you said, working from your own agenda, only thinking of your own agenda and what you want, what you need, and what your ego needs to feel amazing. That's what it sounds to me. And coming back to a small group who makes the decision instead of the people who have to suffer the consequences. So that for me is something that just don't add up at all. And I actually read about something about the Ukraine having the biggest nuclear weapons, and signing a petition to give it to Russia, and Russia promising not to have a war with them in the future ever. Did you guys read about this?
I didn't.
Yes, I read about it, and that was because they had the best. Ukraine had the best nuclear weapons, and they had an agreement. If we share the weapons, you will never attack Ukraine.
Yeah.
And now it's happening. They are attacking because they did sign the agreement. So it
Oh,
was
they
something
did.
interesting that was like that I didn't know beforehand. I just read about it today. And what do you guys think about we now living in a world with social media? Will that be a benefit for this,
Oh,
or
Well,
will it
we
work?
have a front seat, a front, a position to see what's going on, because a lot of things that will not make it on mainstream media or corporate media will
Mhm.
make it on these independent, bloggers or journalists or even Twitter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a good thing. But the thing is that what's so heartbreaking is that Ukraine and Russia are border states, they're border nations, and so many people have intercrossing family members who are living 15 miles on the Russian side or 15 miles on the Ukrainian side, who are now pitted against one another, and who may kill. It's so disturbing. And I think that social media gives us more ability to empathize with what's going on with them, and feel and think, as we've all said, it could be us. But by the grace
Yes.
of God, I live in this country.
Yeah.
And so let's just hopefully it will be over soon. Maybe somebody, this is my hope, maybe somebody who is a protector of Putin will put a gun up against his head
Yeah.
and
I
take
mean,
him out.
that picture that you just showed us was, I have no words. I have no words for that. It's heartbreaking.
It is.
And I can't imagine being the man underneath that flag.
Well,
And just it's barbaric. And it's cruel.
look at this. This is a sweet for these kids respecting the Ukrainian soldiers.
Oh, that's so, oh man, that's sweet.
See him saluting them. Isn't that sweet?
Yes.
But that's the thing, is that we have national pride. I mean, I'm proud to be American. I believe you guys are proud to be Americans.
Yes.
And we don't want any ill to come to our country or to our countrymen and women. And so we will defend this nation and those that we love, because this is our homeland.
yeah.
And we don't want anybody to take over this country. And sometimes there are forces within our country who are trying to take over this country.
Right.
So, people don't realize we've been at war within this country against ourselves for several years now, from our intelligence community, from bureaucrats who are trying to do the wrong thing, from elected leaders who are investing heavily in China, opposed to the United States, and their allegiance and their hopes for elevation is for China, not for the United States. We've had elected leaders who have had a Chinese spy as a chauffeur for years and years. And what happened to him? All but he was firing. He was a Chinese spy. Nancy Pelosi and her husband investing millions upon millions of dollars in Chinese companies. So why would they not want to protect those countries or those companies that operate and headquartered in China? It's, they always say, follow the money.
Yeah.
Follow the money.
And that goes back to, Jeff, you've brought this up before. The love of money is the root of evil, and it really is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But as James has said in the past too, we have to have it. It's,
Yeah.
everybody has to have it. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Well, look at the price that's being paid for Russia's hunger to take over another nation.
Yeah. The lives.
And it's just, and the KGB, what they were, I'm sure they still exist in another format, but the KGB was vicious. You saw the man with the gun shooting the soldier a while ago. That was their MO. That's how they operated. Take no prisoners. So as I sit here today and war raging in Eastern Europe, I just think, dear Lord, hopefully it'll be over soon.
Yes. Definitely praying for that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Let me see if I can find something else. Y'all go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna try to find.
Oh, dear, you asked the question. I'm gonna say this. You said, "What would I say?" First of all, I will fast.
You would what?
Fast.
You would
On the
fast?
fast. So I had the power to go. And I said, "How are you doing, Putin? It's really nice to meet you. Can we pray?" Let me pray.
Woo!
Let me pray.
That's a good answer.
Yep.
Because we need to find a solution. We don't need the flesh in it. We need a higher power.
Woo.
But there can be a solution to
Preach.
the problem.
Preach, Jeff.
Yeah.
And then I was
Yes.
like, I love you in spite of. I love you. I would just keep telling them, I love you. Regardless of what you're going through, I love you.
In closing, Trump grew the economy. He made friends with North Korea, had peace in North Korea. They weren't shooting off missiles. He strengthened his friendship and alliance with Russia, and he made peace with Turkey. He made peace with Israel. But Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize and all his wars that he did. And then you see, and then you see here what they did. They end up impeaching Trump twice as a result of all these things. So it's just, we had record-breaking stock markets. He was loved by the military. They grew the economy to record heights, and yet they hated him. Why? Because he would not play their game. And their game was warmongering. So we see that the United States, we'll end it on a positive note. I'll try to end it on a positive note. So who wants to say something good?
Jeff?
Let's just love the world for what it is. Love each other in spite of, and we should overcome love.
Well, we've heard that speech before in the 60s, and you see where we are today.
We still gotta love.
Mm-hmm. We still gotta
love our enemies.
We still gotta overcome.
Love with boundaries.
And the man who was saying that lost his life in 1968. So
people feel the mission though.
So anyway, I just want to wish the best to the Ukrainian people, and even to the Russian people.
Yes.
And hopefully that their tyrannical leader, Putin, will get whatever he deserves.
Absolutely.
So peace out on that one.
Yes.
All right. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see everyone next time.
All right, bye. Guys.
Bye. Love y'all. Love.
Love y'all.
Love.